Well, hi there. I'm going to show you how to do my winter dream stitch. And this is it right here. Get this closer so you can see it. That's what it looks like. It has a lot of texture. I think if I put it to the side here, you'll start seeing the texture. It makes a really spongy, nice, thick, textured fabric. So that's what it looks like. And that's when I'm using the yarn that I'm using. It looks like this. This is a roving yarn that I'm using. So it gets thicker and thinner. And it has a really nice sheen. One of my favorite yarns. Well, I might as well get the one here that isn't in the bag. You can see it better. So the yarn I'm using, it's made by Bergeret de France. And it is one of their Arlequin, or Harlequin in English. And this one is called Pierre, which is written in English. If it was written in French, it would be stone. Or maybe I'm reversing it. It could be written in French. I'm not that good at French, but whatever. It's Pierre, but it's also stone on some websites if you were thinking of buying this particular yarn. You can use lots of different yarns instead of this one. This stitch works with all kinds of yarns, and I'll show you an example of that. And this one is 50% wool and 50% acrylic, and has a really, really nice shine to it. So there we go. That's the yarn I'm using, and it's a bulky yarn. And so it looks like this. The stitches are all different lengths. So I've got a swatch here to show you what the stitches look like when you're using a yarn. This is a Charisma. So it's a bulky, but this is what the stitches look like when the yarn is the same size all the way through, and it still has the texture. If I turn it, you can see the texture coming up. Yeah, it looks like you can see it better here. And there it is. And your other side looks like this. Okay, so that's what your yarn looks like. And you can use a thinner yarn, and you just use a tighter gauge on your loom. I'm using a Darice loom. It's the, oh geez, I would have to count it, but it's around 30 or 31 pegs. It's the third one down for size in the circle loom sets. And I just have enough stitches for the project that I'm going to do. And the project, all the stitches are done on one peg, so you can be even or odd. That doesn't matter. It's a stitch video, so I'm not going to show you everything, but I will tell you enough that you could do a project with this. So because of one of the stitches, well, two of the stitches in here, it will curl a little bit. So I've got an edge to prevent that on here that works with the pattern. So if you look at the edge, it works with the pattern so that the edge doesn't look that different, because I like my edges to look the same as the pattern whenever I can. It blends in pretty good. So to start, what I did is I cast on with the chain stitch, and then I did a row of knit and a row of purl, and then I started with the stitch. But you can do another row of knit and purl if you want, especially if you're not really even with your tension, because if your tension is off, it can make things curl more, and you might need a little bit more, but this prevents it from curling on the edge. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the stitch. Now the stitch is a 2-row stitch. So once I cast on, once I get going, I'd be going this direction. So I'll show you how to do the end pegs when we get to the end, because I always end my work by doing the end pegs and making sure that my yarn is really secure so my stitch stays even. So the first stitch we do is, for row 1, is Twisty Stitch. Okay, now I have a Twisty Stitch video out there, and a stitch video of just that stitch but I will show you how to do it. So you come over in a U-wrap and knit it off. And you want to be fairly loose. You can do it tight, but if you do twisty looser, you get more texture. So I'm still at the same peg I was at, and I'm going to go back over it the opposite way in a U-wrap and then knit that off. So each peg is going to get 2 knits on it. Okay, 1 U-wrap this way and then 1 U-wrap this way. That's all there is to twisty. And you always have this little bit of work on your right hand side when you're going to the right. So a little bit of work here, a little bit of work here. Okay, I'll go over in the U-wrap and then I go the other way in the U-wrap. Now for the cast on I did, if you look in the description for this video, I'll have a link to the cast on that I use and the cast off that I use that matches it. So that'll help if you want to just do a project out of the stitch video. I will have a project coming. Okay, so we're going to U-wrap over the peg and then we're going to come back and U-wrap over it the other way. Okay, U-wrap over the peg, come back and U-wrap the other way. U-wrap over the peg and come back the other way. The stitch can also be done in the round if you want to do that. I like it better as a flat panel. It's just that you do get a little bit of a jog in the round. Okay, so you're watching. I'm just doing the twisty stitch one way and then the other way. This way, U-wrap, this way, the other way, U-wrap. Okay, now here's how I'm doing the end pegs. So I've got them marked 2 pegs. So when I go over, I just do a U-wrap on the first peg. Then I'm going to do an E-wrap on the next peg. And then I'm just going to come right over and do a purl on this peg. So I am doing 1 purl on the return, and that's enough to keep it from curling. Okay, and that's all there is to the end that I'm doing. And because I'm skipping the peg, I'm getting this chain look. I don't do that very often. I don't like skipped pegs and the chain look, but it made such a nice edge with this stitch, so that's what it got. It's a nice even row. What I don't like about it is it's so loose, so it snags more easy. I like tighter edges usually. Okay, so when we come back, row 2, it's a 2-row stitch, twisty one way. Row 2 is just U-wrap, so it's really easy. So you're just going to U-wrap all the way along. Just a U-wrap, U-wrap. And that's all there is to the stitch. I'm using the twisty stitch with it in my winter dream stitch just to get that nice bit of texture and that thicker stitch. Okay, so we're coming down here. We're coming down to the 2 end pegs. So same thing. I'm going to just U-wrap over it. Then I'm going to come around in an E-wrap on the last peg. And then I'm going to come right over and purl this peg the second time. And then I'm all set to do the twisty stitch again. going this direction. So that's all there is to it. There's how you do the ends. This is the 2 stitches in it, Twisty Stitch and U-wrap. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's all. There will be a project coming with this yarn. I'm just in love with this yarn, so I'm planning all kinds of projects with it in its different colors. Okay, so until next time, bye.